So we all know the Chase Trifecta, which has long been the recommended trio to get great value from your spend. But honestly, they haven't changed that much, even though the competition has. And so with a similar 3-card setup and the same $95 total annual fee, how does the Citi Trifecta stand up? So with any trifecta, the point of having more than one card is that each card has its own specialty, yet complement each other when they're put together. Usually one card is like the catch-all that will give you a decent baseline value for all of your spend. The second card will give you much higher value for a much narrower set of categories. And then the third card will really supercharge the value of your points across all 3 of your cards. Because with most ecosystems, including Chase and Citi, you're able to transfer your points across many of the cards in the ecosystem and redeem them through whichever card is best, usually the third one. So first, let's go over the Chase Trifecta to see what's the baseline we're comparing to, which starts with the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the card whose sole job is to give you a decent baseline return on all of your spend, no matter your category or no matter how much you're spending. And so anytime you spend with this card, you're gonna get 1.5% cash back. So spend $1,000, you're gonna get $15 back. It'll also earn you 3 times back when you're spending on dining, drugstores, and 5% back on travel through their portal, but those categories aren't unique to this card, so we won't go into too much detail here. What's more is that you'll get a baseline $200 back when you spend a minimum of $500 in the first 3 months, with an elevated bonus offering 5% back on grocery store spend in the first year up to $12,000, meaning in the first 3 months alone, you're getting a 40% return on your spend on that initial $500, not including the grocery store part. Speaking of return, all the cards we talk about today that are cash back for both Chase or Citi will actually pay you in points instead, which can then be converted back to cash at a 1 point to 1 cent rate. But like I mentioned earlier, having the third card on each of these setups is what will really supercharge the value of your points. You'll get other options that could give you even higher value, but more on that later. The card also comes with a few partner benefits like 3 months of Dash Pass, additional cashback on Lyft, and 3 months of Instacart benefit with some credits, which if all used can get you upwards of $70 of value on this no annual fee card. There's also a few service and protections, but because they also exist to an even greater degree on other cards on this list, we won't dive too deep here. Next, you're gonna have the Chase Freedom Flex, which in my opinion is the most interesting card of the trio. First off, you're getting the same $200 in cash back when you hit the minimum spend, and the elevated 5% grocery store spend offer, which will give you another 40% return on your initial spend on this card. Though another thing that's worth noting is that you'll only qualify for these welcome bonuses if you haven't had it for the last 24 months, even if it was another version of the offer like $200 back with no grocery store spend. And the same goes for the Freedom Unlimited card as well. The earning categories are pretty similar to the Freedom Unlimited, but the main selling point here is the ability to get 5% cash back or 5 times points when you're spending on rotating categories up to $1,500 a quarter throughout the year, where Q1 of this year includes grocery stores including Target, as well as fitness clubs and gym memberships, with past years including more broad categories like Amazon and PayPal. Meaning if you max out this spend every single quarter, that's up to $75 more in cash back or $300 every year, again on a no annual fee card. Having this card will also double up the benefits you get from DoorDash, Lyft, and Instacart, as well as give you the added coverage of cell phone protection up to $800 against damage or theft after a $50 deductible. So that's a lot of points across both welcome bonuses with grocery store offers, as well as a baseline 1.5 times points or an elevated 5 times points on specific categories. But having a card like the Chase Sapphire Preferred is what completes your setup and potentially gives you more value for all of your points earned on each of these cards. This is also where the annual fee comes in at $95 a year to keep the card open, although there have been past offers giving first year free, so keep an eye out in case those ever come back. There's even a $50 statement credit when booking hotels through the portal every account anniversary year. Especially in this so-called recession, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought back higher elevated offers to try and grow their user base during these times. Alright, so for the Sapphire Preferred, the welcome bonus is much higher than the Freedom cards, coming in at a baseline of 60,000 points once you hit a minimum spend of $4,000 in the first 3 months, but you won't qualify for this offer if you've had it in the last 48 months, so 4 whole years. Keep that in mind. And on top of that, this card does have a few different elevated spend categories that the Freedom cards don't have, like getting 5 times on travel through the portal, 2 times on general travel, 3 times on online groceries, and 3 times on streaming services. But the selling point on why this card completes the trifecta is the ability to compile all your trace points across all of your cards, including business cards, which you can learn more about up in the corner, and redeem them through your Sapphire Preferred in one of 2 main ways. One, you can redeem your points for 25% elevated value, so 1.25 cents per point instead of 1 cent, when used towards travel through their portal. Now, this is the easy route because all it means is you search for your trip through their portal and just book using points there. For example, looking at a cross-country flight from Seattle to New York, Google is showing $318 round trip, which is the exact same as seen on the Chase travel portal, but you also have the option of just paying 25,000 points. If you instead opted for the more expensive Chase Sapphire Reserve card, this bonus goes from 25% to 50%, so 1.5 cents per point instead of 1.25, further lowering the number of points you need to redeem on these flights. I won't go into too much detail about that card here because it costs a much higher $550 annual fee with a lot of different perks and benefits and credits, but because Citi doesn't have a matching high tier card as of yet, to keep the comparison apples to apples, we won't consider that version of the card here. Or method 2 is to transfer these points to Chase's travel partners and redeem for outsized value that way. 2 of the more popular transfer partners include World of Hyatt, where you can get 2 to 4 cents per point, or booking business class flights on some world-class airlines like transferring Chase over to Aeroplan in order to book EVA business class over the Pacific, which you can follow along my booking process up in the corner. Speaking of travel, you'll also have no foreign transaction fees on this card, as well as a few travel and purchase protections, notably primary car rental insurance, which can save you $20 to $30 a day, various baggage and trip insurances, along with purchase protection and extended warranties. Alright, so that's the Chase Trifecta. Categories covering a ton of different bases, while giving you plenty of different options for redeeming Chase points for some amazing value. Not surprising given the stronghold these cards have on the market. But now let's see how the Citi Trifecta stacks up, especially because each one of those cards are like 1-to-1 competitors to the cards on the Chase Trifecta. And so the first card on the Citi Trifecta would be the Citi Double Cash, which is even more basic than the Chase Freedom Unlimited, but arguably better because the highlight of this card is just one thing: getting 2% cash back, 1% when you buy and 1% when you pay, no matter what category and no matter how much you spend. And again, similar to Chase, you're going to get paid out in Citi thank you points, which can then be converted to cashback if you so please. And the reason I say arguably better is because you're getting 2% here compared to the Freedom Unlimited's 1.5%. Even if you transfer your Chase points to the Sapphire Preferred and get the 25% elevated value, that still only gives your points a value of 1.875%, which is still lower than the 2% here. You'll have to opt into the more expensive Chase Sapphire Reserve, where you can get 50% elevated value in order to make your points worth 2.25% back, which would then beat out the Double Cash. Even then, that's the value you get when you're booking travel through the Chase portal compared to general cashback on the Double Cash card. That said, this card usually has no welcome bonus, so you're missing out on hundreds of dollars compared to the welcome bonus that you can get on the Chase Freedom Unlimited, which, depending on how much you spend, can render the difference of 0.5% cashback pretty much irrelevant. Then for card number 2, we have the Citi Custom Cash card, which is really meant to compete head-to-head with the Freedom Flex. Fortunately, this card does have a welcome bonus of $200, but with a higher minimum spend of $1,500 in the first 6 months, which I guess is double the time you get compared to the other cards. But the major benefit of this card is how the different spending categories break down, where you're getting 5% back, or 5 times points, up to $500 every month on your highest spending category. And that's without needing to go in and activate anything like the Freedom Flex. And those categories include the likes of restaurants, gas and grocery stores, to home improvement and live entertainment. The great thing here is that your you're basically the one choosing which category you want the 5% in, and ideally only spend in that category for that month, because everything else will only give you 1% back, and if you're doing that, you might as well put the spend on the double cash and get the baseline 2%. So if you think you're going to be eating out a lot one month, only spend at restaurants with the card. Or if you're going to be driving or traveling a lot, only spend at gas stations for that month. And then we have the card that completes the trifecta, the Citi Premier, which goes head to head with the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Both of them having a $95 annual fee, as well as earning you a baseline of 60,000 points when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, and both having one major credit to help offset that annual fees. Where on the Premier, you're gonna get $100 off when you spend $500 or more on a single hotel stay, excluding taxes and fees when booked through the travel portal. Note that it's a hotel stay of over $500, so it could be of any length, not just one single night. Given you travel somewhere and stay at a hotel for at least a couple days, then this is technically more of a discount compared to the $50 credit you get on the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and is basically enough to cover the annual fee, especially if you use this every year. But where it gets interesting is on the categories, because the Citi Premier probably has the most concise but also most useful set of categories that you get elevated spend on, with 3 times back at restaurants, supermarkets, gas stations, air travel and hotels, and 1 times on everything else. Compared to the Sapphire Preferred, where you get 2 times on general travel, 3 times on online groceries, and nothing on gas, the Citi Premier holds pretty strong here. And because the Citi thank you points are worth at minimum 1 cent per point, that means you're pretty much getting 3% cash back across all of these really common categories. There is no special additional value if you use your points to book travel through their portal, unlike the Chase cards, but you still get the option to transfer out to travel partners to try and redeem for outsized value. But in my opinion, the list is not as great as the Chase list. Now, the Premier does also have a couple protections, like giving you purchase protection up to 90 days for damage or theft, or extended warranty up to an additional 2 years with a 7-year total maximum, which is higher than the 1 year you get on the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Unfortunately though, the Premier does not have those travel protections that you usually find on different cards in this tier, which is a major downside in my opinion. So how do the two trifectas compare overall? Well, I think the Chase Trifecta has a lot more bells and whistles, from the travel protections to the much higher welcome bonuses across the board. Because on the Citi side, you're gonna get $200 on the custom cash and 60,000 points on the Citi Premier, compared to the Chase side where you're getting $200 and the 5% grocery store benefit times 2 and the 60,000 points from the Sapphire Preferred. Chase also has the option of the alternative trifecta, using the more expensive Chase Sapphire Reserve to really enhance your travels more, whereas Citi does not yet have a high tier card, but that could be changing soon. But when it comes to earning points across different categories, I think Citi has that covered better. I mean, you have a higher baseline of 2% back, a more flexible 5% category, and a solid 3% back on some really concise and useful categories. That is pretty hard to beat. That said, more competition is always good. Whether you don't like Chase, you're at 524 and can't get new Chase cards, or any other reason, more selection is always great for us consumers. But speaking of selection, go on and check out this video for arguably the most premium and feature-packed trifecta you can get your hands on today. See you over there.